let's get into it. NLDS, as we said, is set. Game 1 is Saturday at Dodger Stadium. Game 2 is Sunday. Padres and Dodgers this is now going to be the third time they've ever met in the postseason. Each of them have come in the NLDS. Dodgers swept the Padres in 2020 on their way to winning the World Series. Padres got some revenge in 2022. They upset the Dodgers in 4 games. And now here we are 2 years later. Padres are back in the playoffs. They missed the postseason last year. Dodgers, of course, are in the playoffs for a 12th year in a row. Sebastian, how much are you how exciting? How would you describe your feelings heading into this matchup this year?
Yeah, kind of like what Blake said earlier. I'm always, just because of stuff that's happened in the past, I always go into the postseason with specific expectations. I know it's always, that's the saying, the best team doesn't always win. And kind of this year, that's really unique, where there really is no clear-cut best team. It's everyone's been kind of this, everyone's had their ups and downs during the season. There's really no standout team this season. So pretty much, even though the Dodgers they have their faults, all the other teams have their faults. So I think the biggest difference maker between last year and this year, like Blake said again, is going to be they have Ohtani, and their bullpen, by statistically, last year their bullpen was technically better than this year in terms of ERA. But I think this year they're deeper and more talented because you got Kopech, you got Vesia, you got Treinen, because we didn't have Treinen last year. And then you got Phillips, who has had a rough year by his standards, but he's still, I think the past couple months, he only gave up 2 runs if you exclude an outing where you give 5 runs in one start. So I think the bullpen and Ohtani is it kind of puts my mind at ease a little bit.
Yeah, and I think, another thing, we're going to get into kind of some of these specifics on the Dodgers side, but what sort of jumps out, at least initially for me with this series, are the injuries. You look at the Dodgers, it's obviously been well documented who they're without: Tyler Glasnow, Gavin Stone, Brusdar Graterol, Clayton Kershaw, to a little bit lesser extent, just because how much were you necessarily really counting on him to sort of lead your rotation, but an injury nonetheless. But then in terms of guys that you are counting on that are still quote-unquote available, Freddie Freeman, we'll have some quotes from Dave Roberts and Brandon Gomes kind of discussing his status and recovering from a sprained right ankle that he suffered that the night the Dodgers clinched the NL West against the Padres, of course. Miguel Rojas is playing through a torn left adductor muscle, and that's rest has kind of helped, but he's not going to be 100% healthy. And you look on the Padres, they've been, I think Hassan Kim was recently, it might have been as the regular season was ending, I think he was ruled out for at least the NLDS, if not the entire playoffs. And now tonight, the Padres, Joe Musgrove started for them, and he had to leave the game because of right elbow tightness. And I know on paper, the Padres certainly have a lot of plenty of other starting pitching depth to get certainly in a shorter series, but Musgrove is a significant injury to begin with. Blake, how much do you think, not so much one specific player, but kind of just maybe the overall combination and totality, injuries will sort of be felt in this series of, the Dodgers miss Tyler Glasnow, even though, there is some confidence in Jack Flaherty starting game 1?
I think it's hard to say. I think Freddie Freeman's might be the biggest difference maker in it and what you end up dealing with. I think we're at the point where we've kind of expected that Glasnow wouldn't be available for a while now. Same with Gavin Stone. But if Freddie Freeman is fine enough to play through his injury and it doesn't really affect him, I don't think we're going to be talking about injuries as a huge difference maker in this series. Because it's okay to note Glasnow's out, but then you also have to say, but they don't have Joe Musgrove and things like that. So I think the Dodgers lineup specifically is pretty healthy overall, besides for the injuries that Rojas and Freeman are going to try and play through. So I really think those are the main factors there that we're going to be focused on, because if Freddie Freeman is struggling to move around well and stuff, it's going to affect his defense. It's going to affect him base running, potentially hitting. So we just don't really know until he's on the field, and that's going to be the biggest question mark for me.
Yeah, I see. Iris is asking if Musgrove is out for the NLDS. There's been nothing yet, and I don't know if we would get anything tonight. To be quite honest, Padres probably won't necessarily reveal something like that until maybe Friday at the earliest, if not Saturday morning, when they're having to set their roster and Musgrove either is or isn't on it. If obviously, whenever you hear elbow injury for any pitcher, you'd be hard pressed to think. And Musgrove did deal with elbow trouble earlier this season, so if it's a repeat of that for him, It'd certainly be unfortunate, and yeah, we'll just kind of have to see if he's going to be on the roster again. Game 1 at Dodger Stadium is on Saturday. Game 2 is Sunday. Monday would be an off day. Game 3 down at Petco Park is Tuesday, if necessary. Game 4 would be Wednesday, and if it goes to a Game 5, then it would be next Friday, October 11th, back at Dodger Stadium. All right, let's continue with some questions. Nomo says, would you prefer Ohtani approaches at bats trying to hit home runs at the cost of strikeouts, or try to hit singles and doubles and strike out less? Sebastian, do you feel that maybe Ohtani sells out for some power at times? Super chat here from Carolina. She says, bias aside, who's the better team as of today? Health, pitching, and offense. Dodgers or Padres? And then she has a blue emoji heart. LA. I mean, I think the Dodgers are the better team. I think that their kind of top end talent sort of makes up for some of the other deficiencies that they have. Sebastian, how would you answer this question?
Yeah, it's kind of like I alluded to before. Like no one in the league this year is like clear cut best team in the league. Like you said, I think the team that has Shohei Ohtani and Mookie Betts. I know Freddie's hurt, but I think the team who has that, you could kind of give a slight edge to. I know maybe Padres have like a slight edge in pitching, but I think it all kind of balances out. And I think I'd give the Dodgers like by a slight edge.
Blake, who are you taking?
The Dodgers had a plus 156 run differential this year. So they scored 156 more runs than they allowed. That includes pitching, defense, hitting, everything. The Padres were at 91, and that's considering all the injuries and everything the Dodgers had. The Dodgers won the most games in baseball. They took the division over the Padres by 5 games, and I do think a large sample size is the best way to determine who the best team is. So on top of that, you have Shohei Ohtani and Mookie Betts and Yoshinobu Yamamoto. Like, it's a
Eric Flores wants to know, how much faith do you have in Mookie? And he adds, don't lie when you're answering this. I'm a little worried about Mookie, but I think Ohtani being around helps take some of the pressure off him and serves as a little bit of motivation to kind of, remind people that, he's Mookie Betts and he's pretty good as well. Blake, how are you answering this one?
A 7. Like, considering the player who Mookie Betts is, it should be a 9.5 or a 10. But what we've seen in the past, I need to see it from Mookie again first. It's not just been in the last few years. He's had a lot of history of down performance in the postseason, even with the Red Sox. So, yeah, he needs to go out there and prove it. I think he has all the talent to, and I think he's capable of it, and he can. We just need to see it.
He wants to know, do you think the Dodgers will match the Padres' energy? Padres play with a lot of emotion. Sebastian, this has been something that the Dodgers have been criticized for at times, primarily when they've played the Padres, I think. Is there a huge discrepancy in emotion? And to Nate's question, do you think the Dodgers will be able to match that energy in the NLDS this time around?
Kind of my view of like, not like of like the Dodgers per se, but like sports in general, I always am in favor of a team that kind of just goes about their business. Like in the big moments, yeah, like they'll show emotion, but like because I'm not a fan of like trash talk in general. Not like it offends me, but like I'm always like, you're trash talking to, like, in any kind of context or sport. Like you're trash talking too soon. Like game's not over, series not over, whatever. I think you're just kind of inviting bad stuff in. Energy, I don't like. I'd prefer effort over emotion or energy. Let me put it that way. I don't need to see them like going crazy. Like it'll just come naturally. I think basically is what I'm trying to say. Like they don't need to try to force anything. Just kind of go about their business.
Blake, how do you think the Dodgers are going to match the Padres in this department?
I think they did during that series where they needed to win to take the division. I think they definitely showed up. Took them a little bit. That first game was kind of tough, but then they started stringing together a rally before that triple play, and that drained out a lot of emotion. I'm sure they could have bounced back the next day and said, like, wow, that was terrible. We're still bummed out about it, but they didn't. They came back and they stepped up. They won the next two games. We saw a lot of emotion from the players. Mookie, even Will Smith, like, you never see that from him, and he bat flipped, and so I like to see it. I like when they're out there having fun and playing with energy, and if they can keep that going forward, I feel pretty good about this team.
We have another super chat. This one's from Mr. Kirk. If you could make a one-player trade with the Padres today, what would it be? And keep in mind, this needs to be fair. Like, you're not going to trade Austin Barnes for Dylan Cease. But Sebastian, if there was one player on the Padres roster that you would like to see on the Dodgers, who would it be?
Yeah, you just said it'd be Dylan Cease because that's pretty much like the perfect match right now. It's exactly what the Dodgers need, another starter that they could rely on. You kind of took the words right out of my mouth. I was kind of gonna offer that trade, but yeah, I don't know who I'd be willing to give up in return, but to make it fair. But yeah, definitely Dylan Cease.
Yeah, I'm seeing Eric Flores is saying Cease for Glasnow. So at least if Glasnow's healthy, that's comparable. Blake, keeping in mind the cost, what's one player you would like to see you would do a trade for?
Manny Machado.
Oh gosh.
I mean, shortstop, put him there.
I was gonna say, what position are you playing him at though? He's not a shortstop anymore.
Yeah, I'm just kidding because I knew that would get a rise out of people. But if you want energy on the Dodgers, that's the way to go about it. Tatis is really good. I know a lot of people don't like him, and
you're just going for it all, aren't you?
I mean, you're telling me talent only you wouldn't want Tatis or Machado on the Dodgers.
The problem is, if I would take Machado if I needed to pick between those two. I think the problem is you're not getting just talent only. Like there are other aspects of them.
That's fair, but Tatis is fun.
So is Tatis your pick then?
Probably. I do think Cease would probably be the best option, like to match up on needs, but I'm kind of the mindset of always just take the best player if you can. I don't think there's like any world where there's trades that are kind of fair between these teams unless you're giving up players you don't want to give up. So yeah, I don't know. I don't know who the Padres would add for Austin Barnes.
There you go. All right. That was a good question, Mr. Kirk.
未大リーグドジャスの大谷翔平投手がメジャー7年目にして圧倒的な成績を残した2024年シーズンが餅を閉じました。54本取りで対130打点体力10という敬意的な数字でナショナルリーグ2冠を獲得し、さらに日本人選手としては初めてのトリプルスリー体力で330本取りで対30同取りでを達成しました。そして9同取りでを記録し、1000人未到の50本取りで第4と50同取りでという価格も成し遂げました。このシーズンを通して太鼓の輪チムを兼格し、MLB 全体で最も注目される選手となりました。しかし、そんな大谷翔平の見事とは別に、キマ、シーズン MLB ファンを騒然とさせたもう一つの話題があります。それは、太鼓にの愛犬でコピンとのエピソードです。MLB の公式 SNS では、各部門でタイトルを獲得した選手たちの写真を公開しており、その中には、タイごとでコピンが一緒に漁っている一枚も含まれていました。この投稿が小学間に話題となり、ファンだけでなくメディア関係者も反応を示しました。大谷翔平がナショナルリーグの OPS 初取りでドプラス上代率部門で1位となったことを染める投稿の中で、通常であれば選手の打撃や守備、投球しなどが使われるところ、大谷の場合は愛犬でコピンと一緒に怒れる写真が使われました。この写真は8月28日のオリオールズ戦の肩に撮影されたもので、大谷が執球士を務めたデコピンとリラックスした様子で遊んでいる瞬間が収められています。 この意外な選択がファンの間で大きな話題を呼び、SNS 上には多くのコメントが寄せられました。デコピンが本当の MVP だ。デコピンの存在がタイオニをさらに乾かせているといった公言や、OPS はアウトスタンディングパピー&スラガーの略かもしれないねというユーモアあふれるコメントも見られました。さらに MLB の出た専門家であるサラ・スラングス記者もこの投稿に反応し、私の意見では OPS の真のトップはデコイよとコメントし、多くのファンが共感して笑いを誘いました。このデコピンとのエピソードが注目を集めたのは、タイコヌの圧倒的な成績だけでなく、彼の親しみやすさやユーモアセンスがファンに広く受け入れられたからでしょう。MLB の公式投稿は、選手としての彼の事例を示すだけでなく、彼の人間的な魅力も強調し、ファンとの距離をそのめる役割を果たしました。シーズンを通して多くの内容を成し遂げたダイコナですが、デコピンとの関係はファンの心に深く刻まれるものとなったのです。OPS とは、初取出率と長打率を足し合わせた指標で、攻撃面での選手の貢献度を示す重要なスタッツです。近シーズン、タイコヌはこの部門でナショナルリーグ意味の成績を残しましたが、ファンにとってはその OPS 以上にデコピンがもたらした誤視や楽しさが何よりも印象に残ったのかもしれません。SNS では、デコピンがという声が多く見られ、その存在がシーズンのハイライトの一つとして語り継がれていくことでしょう。2024年シーズンは、タイコノとデコピンが共に開いたシーズンとして今後も語り継がれていくことでしょう。タイコ翔平が今後もさらなる成績を残し、MLB での歴史を取り替え続けることは間違いありませんが、デコピンと共に過ごすその親しみやすさや、ファンとのつながりを大切にしながら歩んでいく姿勢は、彼をより一層魅力的にしています。